I told Ted, back in 2005, he wouldn't be sorry with his pick, And I told him in '08 that I was going to repay their trust and get us this opportunity.
Yeah, take that, Brett Favre.
Yeah, that's Aaron Rodgers. I would have to say he is the man of the hour. And, of course, we spent the last hour and a half since we went on the air talking about the Super Bowl. But now for a change of pace, we're going to talk about the game. And I can't think of anybody better to talk about that with than TREVOR MATICH, former Redskins player, ESPN, Comcast commentator. He joins us right now. So, Trevor, was this really a coming-out party for Aaron Rodgers at the end of the day?
I'll tell you, Fred, it was not just a coming out party, it was a slam dunk for him. And people knew that he was a really outstanding quarterback, and to get a Super Bowl championship and MVP cements that. But it was the way that he did it. The way that he absolutely dissected mentally what the Steelers were trying to do on defense, something that nobody else had really been able to do all season long. And then the way he physically whistled that ball into windows that weren't there. Mm-hmm. I mean, there was no margin for error on a lot of his most important passes, but he didn't need any margin for error because they were absolutely perfect in terms of velocity, timing, and accuracy. And so I think, right now there is no better quarterback in the National Football League at all than Aaron Rodgers.
It's interesting because a lot of this was hyped as a duel between Rodgers and Roethlisberger. And I don't know if you noticed this or not, but at the beginning of the game when the teams come out, Steelers came out first, and after the team came out, Roethlisberger came out wearing a ball cap as if it's the Steelers and Ben Roethlisberger. Rodgers ran out in the middle of his team with his helmet on. So unless you knew his number, you didn't know it was there. To me, that was a very interesting way to contrast these two guys and their performances.
Fred, that's a very astute way to look at it as well. And when you listen to the comments after the game, I think you saw that from Aaron Rodgers as well. He didn't want to be the focal point. He wanted to make sure that it was a team issue. And with Roethlisberger, I mean, there was so much talk about how much he overcame this year after the 4-game suspension because of his violation of the conduct policy, et cetera. And that actually really irked me this season because the reason that he was suspended was his own idiotic behavior,
absolutely,
his own misuse of alcohol, and then what happens when you lose your judgment because you're a raging drunk in that particular moment. And so, it was self-inflicted, and so really this was sort of a culmination as well, the mistakes that he made in this game that really cost his team the game of a year that was really just one he'd rather forget.
I want to go back to something you just said. I just want to make sure I'm hearing you correctly. You think that Aaron Rodgers is the best quarterback in the NFL today? You would take him over Brady or Manning right now?
Right now, I think there's nobody playing better than Rodgers. And I'll tell you this, I think he's got a stronger arm than Brady or Manning right now in terms of his load to arrival. This is something that Trent Dilfer talks about a lot, the ESPN analyst, former Ravens Super Bowl quarterback. And I corner Dilfer every chance I get at ESPN, whether it's in the cafeteria or wherever, makeup room, and pick his brain. I think he's a phenomenal analyst. And one thing that he talks about a lot is that the velocity of a football from a quarterback isn't the most important thing. It's from the beginning of his throwing motion, because once he starts his throwing motion, the defense will break on the route. Mm-hmm. From that beginning to the time the ball gets there. And the thing is, he's got an incredibly quick release, but he's also got very fast velocity. So it's very difficult for even perfect coverage to break up a pass against this guy.
Bigger turnover in the game, the interception from Roethlisberger that was returned for a touchdown, or the fumble by Mendenhall in the second half when it looked like the Steelers had momentum.
They were both huge, Brian, and I would take, if I had to pick one, the pick six. And I think that really was something that showed the difference between Roethlisberger and Rodgers in this game. On that interception return for a touchdown, Roethlisberger dropped back. And he started looking down the middle of the field, but it was a pump fake double move to the left all the way. Roethlisberger then looked to the left, he pump faked, and then the safety who was in the middle of the field knew exactly what was going to happen after that. He had studied Roethlisberger, and Roethlisberger was true to form. As he focused to his left, even though pressure did get Roethlisberger and force him to throw the ball a bit short, that safety had to run about 20 yards to get to where that ball came down in order to make that interception and then run it back for a touchdown. And so as good as Roethlisberger is, he tends to make little mistakes like that Aaron Rodgers doesn't make, because while Roethlisberger is a phenomenal athlete who can make plays physically by extending those plays and then throwing deep down the field, Rodgers is more of a precise quarterback at applying his craft against what the defense does. And so what happened on that play was Green Bay's defense defeated Roethlisberger individually in the film room before that game ever happened, and that's why that interception occurred.
You know, it's interesting because when all of the commentators were talking about this game, specifically on game day, they were all talking about which team was going to win, but they didn't think or mention which team was actually going to lose, and it was really Pittsburgh mistakes that, to a large degree, gave Green Bay the momentum that made them 21-3 at the half.
Well, you know, it was 3 turnovers over the course of the entire game, 2 interceptions and a fumble, and really all 3 of those turnovers were mistakes on Pittsburgh's part, in my opinion. The second interception was pretty much the same as the first from a concept of style, in that the safety who picked off Roethlisberger for that second interception read him. Roethlisberger thought that he had man coverage. He had 3 wide receivers to his left. There were 3 cornerbacks pressed up on them, and it looked like he had man coverage, but at the snap, the inside of those 3 corners blitzed Roethlisberger. Now, because it was a blitz, he was certain he had man coverage. He didn't notice a safety lurking in the passing lane when he threw that slant, and that's why it was a pick. And then the fumble by Mendenhall, he had the ball up high on his chest, but he didn't have his forearm covering the lower third of that football. The forearm was completely underneath the football. So when Clay Matthews hit him, there was nothing to really hold the ball in there, and it popped out. Both of those were mistakes on the part of Pittsburgh Steelers.
All right, Trevor. Always good to talk to you. Trevor. Great insights. We always appreciate it. Thank you.